Go Jackets.
What is going on, everyone, and welcome to WreckTalk. Hope you are doing great today. Hope you had a great Halloween. I know I did. And just before we get into things, I was trick-or-treating, and I see this massive behemoth of a man who looks oddly like our Mojo Productions. That's right, Joe Gilbert. I go up and I'm like, hell, that is Joe Gilbert. So I got to see Joe last night. If you don't know, if you haven't seen that interview, he was played offensive guard on the 2009 ACC championship team. So shout out to you, Joe. It was great to see you last night. Now, let's talk about this Virginia-Georgia Tech matchup. Takes place in Charlottesville, a place we have not played well at. Historically, in the same way that we've owned North Carolina, Virginia has owned us similarly, especially in Charlottesville. Now, this is, for whatever reason, because I'm up now, big emotional win over North Carolina, and I'm back in. Just when I thought I was out, Tech brings me back in. So I put a lot of effort into this. So if you're not subscribed, consider subscribing. If you'd like to go a step further, consider becoming a member. There's a join button below the video. There's also a link in the description of the video. There's also a PayPal link and a CashApp link in the description. And we'll be doing a live show tonight and Friday. We'll also be live streaming the game. And we'll be talking about it Sunday as well as a post game. So if you want to super chat, we'll definitely address whatever you want to talk about. So, all-time record, Virginia. And by the way, I'm going to structure this in a way that will be appealing if you're a Virginia fan or a Georgia Tech fan. So also shout out to Wahoo Brad. Virginia fan, shows up in the comment section all the time. A guy that, like Tech fans, has taken it on the chin for years now. Taking it on the chin. And he's still in there, holding steady. Typing in the comment section. He didn't disappear. Wahoo Brad, you're a true fan, and you have the respect of WreckTalk. All-time record is 22-21. Virginia with a one-game edge in the all-time record. Here's the thing. They've won the last three, though. If they win this Saturday game, I believe is on CW, 2 p.m. kick, it'll be their fourth in a row. Total dominance over Georgia Tech. We haven't been able to do much with them. They won 33-28 in 2019. 2020 didn't play. 21 they won 48-40. That's when we got way down with Jeff Collins. And Sims had, other than the North Carolina game, probably the best game of his career. We almost come back. We scored like 30 points in the second half or something, 48-40. And then we all remember last year. Jeff Sims gets hurt, goes down. Obviously, we don't have a backup ready. Gibson comes in, famously runs it out of bounds for the last play of the game when we're down 7, and then admitted, he didn't Reggie Ball it. He didn't lose track of the down. He was just ready to get in the locker room. The heck with this. Game ended 16-9. I had just started my channel around that time. And Jay Batt, that was also the first game Jay Batt was at after being hired as AD for Georgia Tech. Now, I like to look at the last 10 appearances. What's going on in the last 10 appearances? Well, Virginia has won 6. Georgia Tech has won 4. But Tech did win 3 in a row from 2014 or 2012 to 2014. Longest streak is held by Virginia. Virginia, and this is kind of where this historic, like, we don't play Virginia well, they just have our number. They owned us in the early 90s. They won 4 in a row. That's the longest streak, which, again, they'll tie if they beat us Saturday. But they won from 1992 to 1995, and they absolutely beat the brakes off of us. The average margin of victory was 24 points in that 4-game streak. Now, we all know, for whatever reason, we just cannot get a win in Charlottesville. Of the last 10 times we've played in Charlottesville, Virginia's won 7 of them. Tech's only been able to win 3, and we haven't won in Charlottesville. It shouldn't surprise me, but it kind of did. We haven't won in Charlottesville since 2013. Hadn't won in Charlottesville in 10 years now. So let's get an idea of these teams. Let's look at some stats. First, we'll look at Virginia. I didn't realize my microphone was going to be blocking one of these. Anyways, we can fix that. We have technology. And here's the thing with both of these teams. We're going to look at the stats, but I think they're a little bit deceptive as to how the game is going to go. Virginia, up until 2 weeks ago, was really regarded as the worst team in the ACC, one of the worst teams in Power 5 football. But then they shocked the world. They beat North Carolina, and they really, from what I saw, beat them up on the ground. Now, we're going to watch film or watch clips. I say film. I don't have like a cut up of film, but we're going to watch some plays, what Virginia likes to do, what they do well, what they don't do well offensively and defensively. Same for Georgia Tech. Either way, they're ranked 85th in the country, average in total offense, averaging 363 yards per game. Pretty awful in run offense, 105th, averaging just shy of 121 yards a game. Now, that I do think is deceptive. From what I saw, they ran the ball very well against Miami and North Carolina. Obviously, they go up to Chapel Hill, shock North Carolina. Tech does the same the following week, but it took Miami 2 overtimes, I think, to beat Virginia last week. This is not the same Virginia team that started off the year. This is not the same team that struggled with awful teams and got beat by them. Virginia's playing way, way better, and I'm sure if you asked, I don't know, I should look if there's Virginia YouTubers. I haven't seen any if there are. They're probably saying the same things Tech says. Hey, we haven't lived up to our potential. We're just on kind of the cusp of really breaking out and doing some good things. So pass offense, they're ranked 56, averaging basically 243 yards a game. Total D ranked 73rd, giving up 381 yards a game. Their run D is bad. However, it's not as bad as Tech's. We'll talk about that later. They're 96 in the country, giving up basically 165 yards a game. Pass D's 57, 245 yards a game. And I will say this, especially in the past 2 weeks. And really, for me, the story of Virginia is I think their defense is playing much, much better. I think they have a decent defense, especially in the secondary. We'll look at it when we look at some plays. Their defensive backs do a very good job of getting their head turned around, finding the ball, and making a play on the ball. I don't think it was just that Tyler Van Dyke had a bad game or something last week, though I do think he's not near as good as a lot of people thought he was earlier in the season. But I do think Virginia, played pretty well against them. Now, another thing that's deceiving, Muskett's, what's his name? Tony Muskett, quarterback for Virginia. I think he's only played 5 games this year. I don't know, if that's due to injury or you had a change at quarterback at some point. If you're a Virginia fan, comment that down below. Has 1,020 yards, 6 touchdowns on 4 interceptions. And I will tell you this, I wouldn't say he's the most mobile or athletic quarterback, but he can run, and they do use his running ability. They will run design quarterback draws, read options, RPOs with them. So you got to watch out for that. Leading them in rushing yardage is Paris Jones, 306 yards, 2 touchdowns. And then they have Mike Hollins, who's leading them in, I think, total touchdowns with 185 yards and 7 touchdowns. And that's really been the story of Virginia for me offensively. Washington's definitely their best player at wide receiver, Malik Washington, with 935 yards and 6 touchdowns. Big, strong, physical receiver. And that's really the thing with Virginia. at both of those position groups, running back and wide receiver. They've got physical, strong guys that will run you over and make you pay if you're not in a good position. And then Malachi Fields, another, like I just said, strong, tough wide receiver, 498 yards and 2 touchdowns. What's Georgia Tech doing this year? Some of this surprised me. Total offense, Georgia Tech's rolling. Now, these offensive stats are going to be a little bit inflated with us dropping 635 yards on North Carolina. I think 2 things are happening there. One, I think Georgia Tech's offense is a lot better than a lot of people realize. I also think North Carolina's defense is a lot worse than we thought earlier in the season. But total offense, Georgia Tech 17th in the country, averaging 459 yards a game. So really the question here will be, can you continue what you did, all the things you did right offensively against North Carolina? Can you sustain that success? And that's really the question of Georgia Tech's team as a whole. Can you – I mean, look, we can't overlook the loss-win pattern that's been going on. And we have a tendency to, after a big win, have a very embarrassing loss. It was a question that Key got a little bit testy in the post game about. But we'll see. Run offense, that really surprised me. 24th in the country. That, I think, is the most inflated stat that I don't think truly represents what we do running the football. But 24th in the country, averaging 191.5 yards a game. That has to do with last year we had 385 yards of rushing. Dante Smith went off. Jamal Haynes had a good game. If you watch Georgia Tech this season, we're definitely much better passing the ball. Pass offense ranked 40th in the country, 247 yards a game. I think we're a little better than 40th. But we have really struggled running the ball, particularly between tackles. We've struggled run blocking between tackles. We've had more success running off tackle, getting running backs in space. But we get it together against North Carolina. And I think that'll probably be the key into this game is, can Georgia Tech, with a Virginia team that struggles in run defense, can you, though they've been much better in the past 2 weeks, can you sustain that success running the ball? That's probably the key to Georgia Tech's offense getting rolling. That's what we saw last week, right? Now we unfortunately have to look at the defense. Georgia Tech's defense is one of the worst in the nation. There's only 3 teams worse in total defense in the country than Georgia Tech. It's been absolutely awful. Total defense is ranked 130th. There's only 133 teams in the rankings for this, giving up 466 yards a game. And that really, the story of that is there's only one team worse than us in rush defense. I think it's Colorado. 132nd out of 133 teams in rush defense. We're giving up man, my background's not doing good. Let me fix that real quick. I think if I zoom in a little, we can fix it. 132nd ranked run defense in the country, giving up 230, basically 4 yards a game. And that starts with our linebacker play. That'll be another thing we have to look at in this game. Our linebackers have played awful. We probably have one of the worst linebacker cores in the nation, and that's not dogging necessarily any one player, though. We've been critical of Mola. I'd like to see a lot more Andre White and effort. We just have not filled gaps well. We don't pursue to the ball well. And look, I don't think that's going to get a lot better probably in this game either. We'll have to work around it. Pass defense ranked 76, 233.4 yards a game, and that probably has to do with, you're so bad up front, it's hard to cover for that long. So, like I've said, I feel like it's a personnel issue. I don't think that's going to get better, and I think we're just going to have to get creative and work with what we have to be kind of a speed bump long enough to let our offense score enough points to win a ball game. I mean, that's going to be the equation for victory moving forward. Let's look at some leaders on Tech's team. Haynes King, 2,122 yards. I think that's 28th in the country right now. 21 touchdowns. It's 5th in the country. I think only Penix Jr. at Washington, Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback for LSU, and Caleb Williams are the only people in the country that have more passing touchdowns with Haynes King. Tough part with that is it's come with the 10 picks, and a good many of them have been pretty bad. Thinking back to the North Carolina game, get the block punt, come out at half, and throw an awful pick into quadruple coverage. That being said, Haynes King is on pace to break every passing record Georgia Tech has, basically, other than maybe like passing efficiency. And then looking at the running back room, Jamal Haynes, 472 yards, 5 touchdowns. Another surprise story with a kid that didn't even start at running back. Transition out of wide receiver has been very, very good for us. And other thing, King is our second leading rusher with 416 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's going to be another key to the game. And I think that's the key to opening up the run game for Georgia Tech. And I think we saw that in the North Carolina game. We'll watch it in the clips, but he had a few pulls and good reads where he absolutely carved them up. And I think that opened things up for the running back a little more, and it opened things up in the pass game. Another surprise story for Tech is Eric Singleton Jr. This kid's absolutely fantastic. The 472 yards and 5 touchdowns is a little deceptive for him, too. He hadn't started every game. We didn't really know what we had with him. He'll be a kid that probably Virginia is just going to have to double a lot. And a key for Tech is going to be beating them with someone else. Can Malik Rutherford step up again? Can we have Abdul Janae, Dominique Blaylock, Christian Leary step up and have a really big game? Or can Brett Seether step up out of the tight end group, have another 2-touchdown game or something? Be interesting to see. Second leading wide receiver, Malik Rutherford. We just talked about 416 yards, 3 touchdowns. Really the kid that you look to be the guy that Nate McCullum has. Hasn't been quite that this year, but he has been pretty good. So with that, we'll pause here, switch over, we'll look at some film, see what Virginia does well, what Tech does well, and what they don't. All right, so let's take a look at this play here. I want to start off with, kind of what do they do well. So this is going to be a play where they basically run a flat with the running back, and then both wide receivers here at the top of the screen kind of run goes up the field here. Now, in this game, you can tell Tyler Van Dyke really favors Restrepo. He's going to throw a pick. Later we'll look at. But I want you to notice he underthrows the ball, but the defensive back for Virginia does a great job at getting his head turned around. See, already he's got his head turned around. He finds the ball. Now, this isn't really a high percentage throw. The ball really should have been thrown down here toward the sideline. Probably could have had a chance at completing the ball. Virginia likes to run a nickel or a 4-3, one of the two. Here, they shift into cover 2, kind of from showing cover 2. They switch what defensive back's going to be back there. Take advantage of an underthrown ball, and really good job of the defender for Virginia making a play on it, getting the ball. A lot of times what you'll see here is the defense, particularly that defensive back, will bail out the offense by not getting his head turned around, just putting his hands up or and plowing over the wide receiver or kind of hand fighting with him, draws the PI instead of a result like this. So I do think Virginia can pose some issues for us with their defensive backfield. All right, now here Virginia again on defense, showing that same nickel look. And I do think they do a decent job at kind of mixing up what they're doing on defense. I mean, any defense worth its salt is not just going to do the same thing over and over again. They're going to mix things up. They're going to disguise what they're doing. And they have had times getting pressure this year. So they're going to blitz linebacker here. And actually, Miami's going to pull 2 linemen here. And they just whiff on the block. He does a good job at getting through it. And good tackle for loss here for Virginia. Take a look. See, they pull 2. None of them get to him. He gets down, gets downfield, makes a good tackle on a pretty good running back there. All right, here they do a same thing with intercepting the ball. Miami's going to run a wheel route on the short side of the field at the top of the screen here. Defensive back does a good job again at getting his head turned around, coming up with the ball. But real quick, what are we talking about when we say wheel route concept? So let me make myself a little smaller here. I think is that Restrepo? No, Restrepo's down here. So let's see. They have a cornerback here. They have another DB. They got extra DB in the nickel, and then they got the safety over the top. So this guy's going to act like he's running a flat and then turn up the field. And then I forget what he does. This guy usually runs a post. Now in cover 2, obviously the safety has the deep half, and then the cornerback has this zone. So the hole is here. You can fit it in between there, or if you have time, the safety has to pick one of these 2 receivers, this guy or this guy that he's going to cover, right? So if he sits more toward the middle of the field, you can throw the wheel on the outside. If he screams across the field, then you can throw the post behind him. So that's the concept that we're looking at. And it's should be a big play here. You can see here that inside receiver comes out, and he's got him beat. The ball needs to be thrown right here. The safety's going to scream across, but he's not going to have enough time to get there. Should be a completion. So 5's beat, but he doesn't give up on the play. Gets his head turned around. It's an underthrown ball, horribly underthrown ball. Just gets his head around and comes up with a big play for Virginia. Now, I do realize on these plays, Van Dyke is looking like not a very good quarterback. And I'm not saying he's not a good quarterback. He's a pretty good quarterback. Has had a string of pretty bad games. But again, a lot of times the DB doesn't get his head turned around and he just plows over the wide receiver and pulls the PI on underthrown balls. Watch for that when you're watching college football. So, props to Virginia for that. I think the key here can King not focus on just Singleton. If I'm Virginia, I'm going to double Singleton and make you beat me with someone else. Can we win man-on-man matchups with well-thrown balls? I think we can. It's tough in Virginia. All right, let's look at Virginia on offense. And just, real quick, they run a variety of different sets. They'll run something like that. I'm not even going to fix the color. You know what? I will. That looks awful. They'll run kind of like this full house set. I won't draw the wide receivers. This is, to me, is kind of like the modern day I formation. This is the same intentions as an I formation. They like to motion wide receivers across just like Georgia Tech does and run an RPO off of it. So they run a variety of different sets on offense as any offense does. And like I said, they're playing a lot better on offense. They run the ball well. Here, they're just blocking up. Decent blocking up front. Their running backs, they don't have a ton of stats, but they are tough, and Georgia Tech is an awful run defense. And I would think the key to victory for Virginia is to just run it down Georgia Tech's throat all night, play action off of it, pick your spots with that. Now, I will say this. 54 gets away with a hold here, just wraps his arms across him. That's textbook holding. Like if you're trying to teach someone how to hold, that's definitely how you do it. I don't know if they get flagged here for it. Doesn't look like it. But anyways, yeah, Virginia runs the ball. Has run the ball in the past 2 weeks very well. And I just be honest with you guys, I don't think Georgia Tech does a very good job at stopping it. I think they probably have a minimum of 250 yards rushing on us, unless something dramatically different happens. All right, let's see him throw the ball. Again, here they're gonna motion the wide receiver down, and this really is kind of a play that breaks down. And what I said their quarterback's name was Musket. Tony Musket does a good job at just staying composed. I think he finds Malik Washington here. I want to show this. We're not going to break the play down in detail. I mean, this video is already going to be 45 minutes or something. But Georgia Tech has not done a very good job tackling at times this season. Now, he probably should throw the ball to 7 here. He doesn't. 4, good job as a wide receiver, just finding a kind of an open window, just sitting there. And how many? 1, 2, 3, 4 missed tackles. And to me, that's what scares me about Virginia, other than we haven't historically played them well. These are guys that will make you pay if you can't tackle well. I mean, 4 is a strong, good player. I mean, he's going to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark against us most likely. So we're going to see him throw again. Now, this quarterback's not a world beater or anything, but when you have the 130th ranked defense like Tech does, marginally good quarterbacks or bad quarterbacks look fantastic. He makes an excellent throw on the run here. Miami does a good job at getting pressure. And I can't tell where. I think this is Washington again. I can't tell if it's an out by this guy or a comeback because I can't see upfield. Play action. All kinds of pressure. Look at this throw. Right on the money. Missed tackle. 4 will make us pay all night if we're not careful. Huge play. Let's look at that again. Look at this throw off his back foot on the run. So like I said, I mean, I'm not saying the guy's the best quarterback in the world, but he has the ability to make teams play, and he has played well in the last 2 weeks. He is a big reason that they beat North Carolina and nearly took 2 overtimes for Miami to beat them. Makes me think of Boston College when I looked at that quarterback, a guy that's athletic, has the ability to run. Now, he's not as athletic as that. But like I said, when your defense is as bad as Tech's, concerning. All right, I said they like to run draws with the guy, and they do. They were very efficient on third down in the last 2 weeks too. Here, Miami is actually going to blitz both linebackers. I think they blitz these 2. And we've talked about it on the channel. It's counterintuitive, but running into a blitz can be quite effective if you don't get to the guy, right? So he just finds a seam here for a big gain on second down. So they bring them both. Good job picking it up. He finds a lane. Big play for Virginia. So as far as stopping Virginia's offense, what do they do well? They run the ball well at time. They have a very good wide receiver that can make you pay, especially if you can't tackle them. They have a mobile running back that also has the ability to make throws when he needs to. So number one, and we weren't able to do it against Boston College, is we got to rein in his run game, force him to throw, and then we probably need to double 4 all night. That would be my game plan if I'm the DC here. But like I said, we're not working with a whole lot on defense. Last offensive play we'll look at for Virginia, and then we'll go look at some Tech stuff. Here's the thing. We're not going to probably have success getting a lot of pressure. This Musket quarterback, he doesn't have, what did I say? He's got 4 picks on the year. He's got 6. He's got 4 interceptions on 6 touchdowns. He is prone to making some bad decisions. There have been, especially if he's getting pressured. I just don't think we're going to be able to get pressure even if we blitz. And if you blitz and don't get pressure, usually it's a big play or big throw or whatever. So here, they're basically just going to run all curls. And Kitchens, and I'm not saying we've got anyone as good as Kitchens, but Clayton Powell-Lee, Brooks, Amari Harvey, these are all guys that are going to need to step up. Kitchens just does a good job at sitting, watching the quarterback's eyes, and getting in front of the ball here. So a big key on defense is our defensive backs, corner safeties are going to have a big game. Now, our corners haven't necessarily played well. Is probably the weakness in our defensive backfield. I think we're just going to have to probably depend on our defensive backs to both be run stoppers and pass stoppers, unfortunately. We'll see what happens Saturday, but I'm just not all that confident in our defense. All right. Halloween might have been yesterday, but the horrors have only begun. Let's look at some Georgia Tech defense. Exactly what I'm talking about. It's going to be a run by North Carolina here. Defensive backs, first of all, 65 turns his guy. Linebacker out of position, not flowing well. This guy doesn't even get touched till he already gains the first down, and the first guy to make contacts is a defensive back. So I don't know. What do we do at practice this week? We'll just look at a few of these in a row and get them out of the way. Here, we try and counteract it by blitzing, but here's the thing. If you blitz and don't get to the guy, any quarterback that has time, we bring 2 here, is gonna find the open guy, That's what I'm saying. Look, I just think we're going to have to step up in the defensive backfield this week. Here is where we actually do make a good play of getting in position, with our defensive line and then just can't tackle. And I'm telling you, Virginia, I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, my God, how are you giving Virginia all this credit? They've only won 1 game. They're awful. I think they're a lot better than what people realize. I mean, look at this missed tackle. And, I like effort. Pay attention to effort here. Boom. Gets met, 4 yards off the line of scrimmage, gets turned. And then even after we miss the tackle, there's Mola. Look at Mola. Or is that Mola? No, that's actually Harvey. Harvey gets pancaked, but you can't. This is going to get us beat. Again, it's going to be, can we be enough of a roadblock to let our offense spring enough points? Whew, I'm glad that's over. All right, let's look at some Georgia Tech offense. 630 plus yards of offense. Big touchdown to Malik Rutherford here. He's just going to bubble out, get the ball quick. And Tantor mentioned this. This is Singleton Jr. here. This block, the whole key to this play, obviously Malik Rutherford makes some athletic moves to get in the end zone. We haven't perimeter blocked well all year, and this is on 3rd and 2. We do it well here. Singleton just eats his guy up here, get the ball out. Look at the block. Kind of ends up taking 2 guys. Well, I guess the other guy kind of falls. He eats crap there, eats grass. And then Rutherford just athletic. Look, I think the best kept secret in the ACC is Georgia Tech's wide receiver room. I really do. I think that showed against North Carolina. People might laugh at me. Georgia Tech's got some good wide receivers. All right, let's look at that Brett Seether wheel route. And this is on 4th and 2. I said this like in the postgame. What a ballsy call here by Buster Faulkner. We're going to run it a little different. Both these guys just kind of come down, run up the seam. Seether's going to run the wheel on the outside, and they're in man coverage. So this is really a perfect play call for what they're in. And if you'll notice here, as these guys come down, and I really think they're just decoys. I mean, unless they're just wide open, they're not throwing the ball here. The whole point of what they're doing is to get in the way of the guy guarding Brett Seether. Let's take a look at it at speed. Boom, and he's beat. Big play. So we know what Singleton can do. In fact, let's go ahead and look at a big play by Singleton here. He just beats his man running straight up field. And he doesn't beat him that bad. I mean, this isn't bad coverage. He's just a good player. I imagine, they're going to double him. They're going to try and take him away from us. The same way we're going to try and take that Washington kid out of their playbook, they're going to do the same here. And it's up to, like we said, people like Brett Seether, Christian Leary, Abdul Janae, Dominique Blaylock, to step up, Malik Rutherford as well. This will be the last play we look at, as this video is getting way too long, as it is. I said that a key to victory for Tech would be establishing the run and really establishing it early. And I think it really starts with Haynes King. That's what's so special about Haynes King, is how effective he is as a passer and a runner. We're going to pull both guard and tackle here. And King is just going to make a great pull here. The defensive lineman comes up. He's definitely going to have, I think that's Dante Smith. And look at this pull. Got to be careful with those. A lot of times you can put the ball on the ground there too. But hole opens up, and he even fakes out the camera guy. 25's like, yeah, I made the tackle. I'm the man. Meanwhile, Haynes King is 20 yards down the field. And once you start breaking those off, it can open up your running back running between tackles well. So that's going to be important. And just for good measure, we'll look at Dante Smith. This was about three minutes before that happened. And this is another key. Like, can our offensive line do what they did last week? And our offensive line's been good, pretty good all year. But we finished this game against North Carolina just absolutely demoralized them up front there. Big 70-yard run for Dante Smith. Would love to see him have another big game. If we can have Jamal Haynes, like a three-headed monster at running back, keeping all those guys fresh, that would be ideal for sure. So let me switch screens over here again. Just to recap, or I guess to say what needs to happen for Tech to win and what would happen if Virginia won. For Tech, establishing the run is going to be key. Having your playmakers make plays like Eric Singleton Jr., or if they take him away, you need one or two other wide receivers to step up. King needs to avoid the really bad interceptions. I didn't mention it, but UVA is 96th in turnover margin to Georgia Tech. I think it's like 50th. Need to win the turnover battle. Don't need to have any bad, special team snafus. We still had one last week with that kickoff that we squibbed. I don't think it was intentional. It was like an unintentional squib. They almost took back to the house, but we came up with the block punt. And I want to correct myself. That wasn't Amari Harvey that blocked it. It was Abdul Janae. But yeah, like I said, we need to do those things. And really it comes down to, can you sustain what you did last week? Can you stay focused at practice this week? Stay focused on your job. If you've watched some of the videos that have come out, that was one of the things he said in his pregame speech. Focus on your job. Defensively, can you just hold them under, 250 yards rushing. That would be nice. Like I said, defensively, we've got to do enough with what we have for our offense to score enough points. And our offense is going to have to, play all 4 quarters. That's, again, can we finish a game this week like we did last week? If for Virginia, Virginia's game plan offensively is going to be run it right down Georgia Tech's throats, because they haven't shown they could stop that all year. There's only one team worse in rush defense than Georgia Tech. So why would you not? I'm sure they're going to be creative. They're going to run a lot of quarterback draws. They're going to run it between tackles. They're going to run read option. They're going to run RPOs. That's what they're going to do. Can we step up at corner and safety and to kind of make up for that, both run stopping and pass defending? Who knows? I think if Georgia Tech is held to less than 500 yards of offense and Virginia runs for more than 250 or more, I think that would tell you that Virginia wins this game, and they could win it by 2 scores. Now, Virginia is a 2-point favorite right now. I think that's absolutely fair. I might even put it at 7.5, given the history that we just talked about. Score prediction, and I hate to do it, I have no reason to think that Georgia Tech, though we do play well on the road, is going to bounce back from an emotional win against an opponent. Look, Georgia Tech's more talented. That might make some Virginia fans mad, but they are more talented. Can you bounce back from a big emotional win against a ranked opponent, playing an inferior opponent the next week, talent-wise? I'm not saying they're an inferior team, but talent-wise, I don't think so. I think Tech probably drops this game 31-28, something like that. That would be my score prediction. Virginia probably wins 31-28. But anything's possible. Really, anything wouldn't surprise me. If Virginia blew us out, it wouldn't surprise me. The only thing that would surprise me is if Tech blew Virginia out. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Tech fans, if you're a Virginia fan, Wahoo Brad, again, shout out to you. You guys have a good one, and I'll talk to you on the live show tonight. Have a good one.